I never thought much about shadows. They're just there, minding their own business. That changed 3 weeks ago. Now I can't escape the one that's been following me. It started on a Thursday evening. I was walking home late from work. The city was unusually quiet, the kind of silence that makes you notice every small sound. My footsteps echoed off the empty buildings. The streetlights buzzed faintly, and then I noticed it, like a shadow that wasn't mine. It moved when I moved, but not in sync. My own shadow stretched forward, cast by the orange glow of the streetlights. This one lagged behind, just a second or two late, almost as if it had to think about what it was doing. I stopped. It stopped. I turned around, scanning the empty street, but no one was there. Just me. Ah! My stomach tightened, but I brushed it off as a trick of the light. Ah, may have been thinking. Okay, that was no longer. The feeling didn't go away. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the apartment felt amplified. The shadows in the corners of my room seemed darker, heavier. I told myself I was imagining things, but when I turned to face the wall, I felt it, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I spun around, nothing, just my room, my furniture, and the faint light of the city sleeping through the blinds. The next morning, I felt ridiculous. Lack of sleep was getting to me, I thought, but then it happened again. Walking to the store, I saw it. That same shadow. It was faint in the daylight, but it was there, trailing just behind me. I tested it, taking sharp turns, stopping abruptly. It always caught up, like it didn't care if I knew it was there. I told myself it wasn't real. Maybe stress was playing tricks on me. Days passed, and the shadow became bolder. I saw it in places shadows shouldn't be. On walls, when there was no light source. On the ceiling while I lay in bed, even in reflections. It wasn't just following me anymore. It was watching. The worst part, I couldn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? Hey, there's this shadow that doesn't belong to me, and it's stalking me. People would think I'd lost my mind. The turning point came last Tuesday. I was working late again, trying to distract myself with spreadsheets and deadlines. The office was nearly empty. A few of my coworkers had left earlier. I was alone, or at least I thought I was. I stood to grab coffee from the break room. As I walked past the glass wall separating my desk from the hallway, I saw it. The shadow and another one. It wasn't faint anymore, it was solid, darker than it had ever been. It didn't mimic my movements this time. It just stood there, still as a statue, in the middle of the hallway. My throat tightened, my feet froze. The logical part of my brain screamed at me to move, to do something, but I couldn't. I blinked, and it was gone, just like that. I ran home that night. Since then, it's gotten worse. The shadow doesn't just follow me, it invades my space. Last night, as I brushed my teeth, I saw it in the mirror. Not behind me, but beside me. It lingered there, pitch black, featureless, and yet somehow suffocating. I dropped the toothbrush and stumbled backward, but when I turned to look beside me, nothing was there. I started noticing things out of place in my apartment. Small, insignificant at first. A chair slightly pulled out, a picture frame tilted, but now it's deliberate. My closet door left wide open when I know I closed it. My keys moved from the counter to the floor. It's taunting me, and I can't escape it. I even tried staying at a friend's house. I didn't tell her why, just said I needed to crash for a few nights. At first, everything seemed fine. I almost started to believe it was over. But on the second night, I woke up to her screaming. She said she woke up to a shadow standing at the foot of her bed. She thought it was me until she saw me asleep on the couch. I left the next morning, terrified that I dragged it with me to her home. Now I'm afraid to sleep. I'm afraid to leave my apartment, but staying here feels worse. It's in the walls, in the air, in my head. I don't know how to fight something that isn't even real. Or is it? I've considered seeing a therapist, but how do you explain something like this? They'd put me on medication, tell me it's a stress-induced hallucination. Maybe they'd be right. But deep down, I know this is real. Tonight, it's worse than ever. I'm sitting here writing this, hoping it will help me make sense of what's happening. The lights are on, every corner of the room illuminated, but the shadow doesn't care anymore. It's right there in the corner of my eye. Every time I turn to look, it slips just out of view, but I know it's there. I can feel it. It's closer now, closer than it's ever been. I don't think it wants to follow me anymore. I think it wants to take me. And the scariest part, I'm too tired to fight it anymore. If you find this, know that I tried. Know that I didn't imagine this. And if you ever feel like something's watching you, don't ignore it, because once it notices you, it never lets go.